Hello and welcome to the Draft Talk podcast. The Draft Talk podcast, well, you guessed it, we're here to talk all things draft. And when I say draft, I don't mean that bit of cold air sneaking in through the window. Oh no, I mean the NFL draft, which, believe it or not, is less than 2 weeks away. Would you believe it's creeping up on us? So we better get rolling, hey? I'm your host today, Brian, and joining us, we've got our brilliant bunch of scouts, all three of them, MJ, Owen, and Stu. How are we doing, guys?
Yeah, very well, Brian. Glad to be back after missing out last week. Bit miffed at being called a maverick last week, but never mind when I was listening on to you guys. But more importantly, I was more interested to see this moustache that was famously being talked about and looking good. I like it.
Oh, thank you. Just like I say, we've called you a lot worse than a maverick. So
yeah, it's nice to see that all four of us have bothered to turn up today.
Bothered to turn up. Thanks very much, guys.
Started early.
All good. You can tell it's getting closer to draft time because my voice is going croakier and croakier as the weeks go by. So, yeah, looking forward to talking about a really good positional group today.
Yeah, Brian. Thanks for the weather report there, as well as the intro on the drafts. Yeah, it's great to have Stu back with us, full team to talk about this cornerback grouping. Lots of great players to talk about. Should be a fun one.
Absolutely, yes. We are doing our top 5 cornerback show today. The guys are going to run through. They've done all the scouting all year leading up to today of these cornerbacks. They're going to go from 5 up to 1. 1 being the best. Who to look out for in this year's draft? Like I say, it's less than 2 weeks away. Scary times. So without further ado, let's get rolling. MJ, I'll come to you first. What an honour for this show today. Who's your number 5 cornerback and why?
Oh, it's a dubious honour, I think, because there are so many we could talk about here. And as I did my 5, I had a top 2 who were really close, and then I had a 3 and 4 who were really close. And my position number 5 was in amongst a number of people. I think I looked in detail at least 10 to 12 who I thought, are they going to get near my top 5? In the end, I went for somebody who I thought just had one particular elite trait that I wanted to talk about. So I went for DJ Turner from Michigan. And that, the outstanding thing there is that 4.26 he ran in the 40. He is an elite athlete. He is just, his speed is phenomenal. Obviously, that's something that's really useful to have at cornerback position. I think if you watch some of the tape, he just gets there wherever he can get there, wherever it is. If it's chasing a guy down, if it is a pass breakup, forcing an incompletion, if it is tackling the guy as soon as the ball's been passed, he's there. His tackling is also very useful. He doesn't miss an awful lot of tackles, despite the fact that he comes in at 5'11" and 178 pounds, so he's on the lighter side. And this kind of follows, I think I had a similar thing last year where I wanted one of the guys not to be one of these kind of 6 foot, 200 pound, as Stu would call them, like pterodactyl-like cornerbacks. The question mark, obviously, for him will be he is on the smaller side, so can he compete on the outside? From a speed point of view, he can, but from a size point of view, he's going to have trouble with contested catches and trouble being, overly physical. So maybe when he transfers to the NFL, he might see some more time in the slot. But he is a super irritating cornerback for wide receivers. And so that's why he has just about made it into my top 5.
Yeah, so we talk about how good this cornerback class is. He is my cornerback 10, but he's still my 51st ranked prospect currently on my big board, which shows you how stacked this class is, especially at the top. And that really isn't to take away from what he does, because I say I do really, really like him. I think he'll go quite highly as well, because that speed just underpins everything that he does. But he's more than just the speed, which obviously stands out quite clearly. But I think he's better than that. I liked how decisive he was. I liked how kind of his movement skills and his anticipation. He was almost one step ahead of everyone, and obviously that speed helps that as well. It means that it can bail himself out of precarious situations. played with patience, liked his recognition. Almost, he's so quick that he almost floats, that it doesn't look like he's even trying that hard in his movement skills. He is a little bit shorter than you might like, and as you said, struggles more against those more physical players. So maybe you wouldn't want to line him up against a tight end, but I think he's a really good player.
Yeah, he's a player that I like as well. He's not going to be in my top 5, unfortunately, MJ. But he's a guy, as I say, there's a cluster of these corners who, depending on the way evaluators see them, to sift through that kind of group can be really difficult. He's an electric player. That 40 time was insane. He's someone who can also not just straight line speed. I mean, he can flip the hips and turn and go very quickly as well. I think that he's able to kind of change direction. He's very fluid, as Owen described him there. He kind of floats, and you can see that in his movement. He's got very quick feet. He can tackle very well, but I think in that kind of high ball situations, maybe kind of in the red zone is where he might struggle a little bit. And you might want him against some of your smaller, quicker receivers rather than playing on the perimeter against your likes of, I don't know, someone like a Mike Evans or someone. That's not the kind of player you want to be lining up again. Super quick, super fast, great athlete, and he's going to go earlier than maybe people think. But is he going to go back in round 1? He might, if somebody really likes him. But I would nailed on round 2. But could he go round 1? You've seen mock drafts with him going there, so he has that potential.
Lovely stuff. All right, Owen, give us your number 5, please.
Okay, I feel like this might be a little bit controversial because I think we're gonna speak about him. So I'll tell you what I think first, and then I'll leave it open for the scouting report. So my number 5 is Deonte Banks from Maryland. Look, he's a historic tester at the position. Everyone, if you listen to the Draft Talk podcast, you'll have heard of him by now. He's absolutely skyrocketed up boards. He is being mocked in every single person's mock draft, probably in the top 20 by now. An historic tester, absolutely unbelievable, like 100th percentile in almost everything. But I wasn't convinced that I saw the testing on tape. And it's something that we spoke about on the linebacker podcast, me and MJ last week as well. But what I struggled with Deonte Banks was that throughout the scouting report, I wanted him to almost play quicker. I wanted him to play with more anticipation, and I felt like he might have been a step behind a lot of the time. I would have liked more ball production as well, but the key thing was he was far too grabby for my liking, and that goes for a lot of corners coming out of college now. Almost every corner coming out of college now, you can mention being grabby, can't you? But it was almost all far too constantly for my liking. That he was far too handsy, especially at the line of scrimmage, which I know he can get away with a little bit more, but I would have liked less of it. It almost like he pushed it off at times as well. Look, I obviously like him. He's in my top 5. The reason why I've mentioned all that is the reason why I think I'm going to be lower here. But he's got a lot to like. Very, very sticky in coverage. Really good size, as a absolutely elite athlete. If you are in a position to develop a corner, he's absolutely one that you should take. But I think I might have struggled compared to these two.
We're not far off. I have him as 4.
Okay.
And I mirror a lot of what you said. He tests ridiculously well, but there is that missing element when you see him play. He almost seems like he plays within himself. I don't know, is that because he's ultra confident and he knows he can catch up with these guys if he has to, or is there a little bit of hesitancy and he's not quite confident in himself at times? But he's super aggressive, really tough and physical at the line of scrimmage. He transitions well out of the breaks. He's really sticky in coverage. You're right, his ball skills, he tends to be one of these guys who would rather bat the ball out of a receiver's hands and try and make an interception. He likes to get in about them. The thing, as Shakira will say, the hips don't lie. He's got very good hip movement for a guy his size. But I've got no deny. One of my notes, holding can be an issue. He is very, very handsy and grabby, and he will have to clean that up as well. But I think a really good prospect, nice size, athleticism off the scale. He's got it all there for a team that wants to take him.
So I agree with Stu on this one. I've got him at 4. The thing that I would just add here is we have to remember he's actually really quite raw in terms of number of snaps that he's been on the field for. 2021 was basically a write-off for him, and before this season he'd only been on the field for just over 300 snaps, 680 this year. So this year's been his breakout year. The thing that I liked about him, alongside the testing, the athletic testing, the speed, the vertical, all of that, was how he moved in relation to the sideline and using the sideline as the extra defender. And you hear this said a lot. If you watch the NFL games, cornerbacks who can use that sideline as the extra defender. And I thought he was really good at that on the outside. And he was very good at mirroring his receiver. I think there's an element of sophistication, I think is what I would call it, that he needs, both in terms of press. I think he could learn from one of the guys who's a little bit higher up the 5 for me in terms of what to do in terms of press coverage. I think just watching this other guy that we'll talk about in a bit would be a good idea. And then a little bit more savvy on routes and when they break, route awareness, what is the receiver about to do. I think if it's a fairly one-dimensional route, I think he's fine. I think if it starts to get a bit fancy, then we can start to play into what the guys have already mentioned here around penalties. 8 penalties in the last year, and he's not alone. There are other guys in these top 5s who have racked up penalties as well. So the potential is definitely there. As we've seen, he's climbed up draft boards to the extent that you're now looking around. You see him going around about the 20-ish mark in an awful lot of mock drafts at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes. And yeah, he's number 4 for me.
Which leaves us with one number 5 left. Who have you got number 5?
Again, this not being. I'm speaking away. My number 5 is Joey Porter Jr., who Owain is rubbing his hands in glee because I don't know if he thinks that's good or bad. He's obviously gone.
You all over this.
This all over. I like Joey Porter Jr. He's in my top 5 for a reason. But there's things that I find that I just don't like as much as some of the other guys. He's got incredible reach. He's a large tackle radius, really good at the catch point. He's got good long speed. He's very quick. He's really good as MJ. I think what MJ is probably leading to the press man coverage. Is where Joey Porter Jr. excels. He's really got a really good downhill ability. He's happy to swallow up the runs. But for me, I don't think he would work in every scheme and in every position. I think he's got to be in a real scheme where he's a really specific role that he plays. I think he's got the long speed, but I don't think he shifts as well against some of the slippery, smaller wide receivers. His back pedal, I think he is a bit sluggish on that, and he could do with cleaning that up a little bit as well. And I don't think he'll play in every scheme. I think he's really got to be in that press man coverage. I don't think teams he's going to have coverage or variations on that. I think you've got to know what you're doing with Joey Porter Jr. So there's a lot to like for me, but he's not going to be for everyone, in my opinion.
We're just going to smirk at each other here, MG.
Who's going first? Where have you got him?
I've got him at 3.
Yeah. Same here.
Feels a little bit chalk, doesn't it? But I would say that I don't disagree with anything you said there, Stu, because I toyed around with the idea of having him lower, and I probably started with him lower, but he just edged up as I ranked other players, if that makes sense. I kind of didn't want to have him at 3, but he ended up there just because just the way that it's stacked. I mean, he's number 3. He's not going to carry a first-round grade for me. Currently, he's number 36 on the big board. So I'm not I like him, but I'm not totally enamored with him. He definitely comes with issues. If you're a team picking in the 20s and you're like, well, we'll pass one of these guys, we'll pick up Joey Porter. I wouldn't be so convinced, but there's a lot there to like as long as your team can play to his strengths. And say he's long, he is physical. You are going to have to play him in press. There's no doubt about it. Say he is long. The size is what teams are going to want to look for. He's an effective tackler. effective in his footwork and his movement as well. He can be patient enough. He isn't a twitchy athlete though, but by no means. I would say that he can be over aggressive with his hand usage at times, which can lead to him being beat. And he definitely doesn't have enough explosiveness at the position to be ranked amongst the top tier in this class. So in terms of tiers, even though he's at 3, he would be firmly in the tier 2 of guys for me. And I think just that play style will produce penalties at the next level as well, which will be something that you need to watch out for. But he's fluid, he's got good body control, he's disruptive at the catch point, but he is a physical press receiver, and I think you are going to have to play to that. I wouldn't be playing him in any other scheme.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got him coming in at 3 as well. As you've put there, physical. He's best in press. He's going to jam guys up at the line. He's going to disrupt routes. If you're playing against an offense where it's all about the timing, a guy like Joey Porter's really going to throw this timing off, and you're going to force that quarterback to go to his second or third read, depending on which one Joey Porter's on. Obviously, he has the bloodlines there. He's got high footballing IQ. His dad played for the Steelers, same position. And just to echo what you said there, I've got my 2 knocks, which are in brackets, are that he doesn't move as fluidly, he doesn't have that twitch, and I'm not too sure about him downfield. The further away from that line of scrimmage you get, as you said there, Stu, as soon as you get him backpedaling, you're in a bit of trouble. So I particularly like him going in that sort of one direction and jamming things up at the line. He can blitz as well, so he's useful in that respect. Not all of these cornerbacks are particularly proficient blitzers, but I think Joey Porter Jr. can be. Really liked him, and he came in at number 3.
Fantastic. So, okay, now here's a name that I've heard a lot about, but he's only made it to 1 top 5. That's your number 4 online. Tell us who it is.
It's Keely Ringo from Georgia. I knew I'd be the only one with him in there. I can't let it go. I still really like him, and the reason why, he has all the traits. He is still really young. He's still only 20. He's not going to turn 21 until after the draft. And the way that I look at Keely Ringo, which may be slightly differently, is that I see him as a prospect who is still developing and is still learning the position. He just got on the field very early on at Georgia, which is surprising compared to how they run their program. But there's also a good line of Georgia corners coming out. I think Eric Stokes a couple of years ago. Tyson Campbell's been really good at the Jags as well. And he has, as we spoke about with Daniel Palagreco on the episode last week, that he's just a super physical and athletic corner who has all the fundamentals to make it. You just need to put it all together. I mean, his 40-yard dash was more than good enough. He's twitchy, he's explosive. I think he can press reasonably well enough, and he's disruptive enough at the line. I think he's strong enough as a tackler as well. I think he has all that. He's more than enough speed to test with everyone. Fluid enough. Yes, he can be a bit tight in the hips, but I think you can work with that. His ball tracking's really strong. Yes, he probably is still a little bit raw at this point, but you have to take that into account when drafting him, that not all these prospects are perfect. Yeah, he could be stronger sticking with receivers in their routes, and he has a tendency to bite and take almost another step which opens up space for others to when they cut in. That he's more reactive than proactive, especially when covering. But I think his kind of intuition and his instincts are okay. It's just there's something in the footwork which almost looks like he takes an extra step. I don't know whether he is, but it's almost like he stutters a bit before then using his athleticism to catch back up. And I'm just banking on that being able to be kind of ironed out when he gets to the NFL. And he can be easily fooled, but I think this is a high upside pick, and so I do like him. I just don't see enough there with others to take it above him, especially with if he can put it all together. I think he could be a really good corner.
Yeah, I'm not going to criticise you at all on this one, Owen. We all have players that we beat the table for, and I know that Keely Ringo is one of your guys that you've really liked all through the kind of process. As you pointed out, he is a young prospect. He, at worst, I think, is going to be a second round pick. I don't think he's going to get much further than that. He's a height, weight, speed guy. He's got quite good instincts for someone who's quite young as well. I think he hasn't had the ball production yet that you would like to see, but again, that maybe just limited by how much he has played. I think his change of direction is maybe what it doesn't concern me such. He's got that really good vertical speed. You're not going to beat him in a foot race, but can he change direction quickly? And I think you might have to just be careful about who you're lining him up against. He is physical, aggressive, and he's got all the tools there. I just wanted to be a little bit more, but I think as a projection, hey, he could end up being the best corner in this group if he puts it all together. He's got everything there to put it together. It's just a case of whether he can take that next step.
Right, and scheme matters so much in these evaluations, doesn't it? Which is why it's so difficult for us. If you're sitting there in a team, you probably, if you're a team that doesn't play that way, then you're just not going to have him on your board. A bit like what we said with Joey Porter. I think if you play kind of like a cover 3 off man kind of scheme, then the change of direction isn't going to bother you as much. But it just depends on whether you think that's something the problem is he didn't do the kind of the, I'm trying to think of the word, the like short area quickness drills at the combine or his pro day. I can probably take a good guess why he didn't do them, because they wouldn't be very good. But obviously that's something that you would have to take into consideration. But I think depending on your scheme, that's something you could work with.
Yeah, so he's just outside my 5. He would have been 6, and he's had two seasons of 15 games each season and got 800 snaps in each. So although he's only done 2 years, he's seen the field, stayed on the field. One of those adages, best ability is availability. He's obviously got good size and frame, athletic enough, still learning the position. I've got down here, that at the moment it's reactive rather than anticipating what he needs to be doing, but still very raw. So the other thing that goes in his favour, coming back to this phrase that I keep coming back to, he's battle tested. You look at who he's played against the last 2 seasons. He's played against some of the top teams in college football. So although it's only 2 years, that will have given him good level of experience. And if you're betting on the traits that he's got, you're betting on the athleticism he's got, then he could be a really good pick for somebody. As you say, I don't think he'll be hanging around much on day 2.
Yeah, when you think as well that he was at his age, that to get on that Georgia team at 18, win a national championship, and get a pick 6 in that game at 18 years old is mightily impressive. Think about what I was doing when I was 18. I wasn't getting a pick 6 to win a national championship. I was more bothered about my kill to death ratio on Call of Duty.
I was probably drunk, spewing somewhere when I was 18. I don't remember anything much.
Not a pick 6. Not a pick 6, but a 6-pack, more that kind of.
Very good. Okay. Excuse me. Stu, give us we're on to number 3. Oh, we've done even number 3. Stu, give us your number 3 and blow this thing totally apart.
Okay. They're just sitting back. So, yeah, this is a pick that I might get that Maverick label back again. And
never left.
I'm not going to care a jot what either of you guys say about this, because
can we guess?
Well, let me. Then you can guess.
Okay.
Listening back to podcasts that we've done over the years, and we've been so nice to each other at the start of it, and I don't care what you guys throw at me for this pick, because this pick is my number 3, and you can convince me otherwise. You can say whatever you like. It's not going to change my thoughts.
Manuel Forbes.
No.
Clark Phillips.
No.
Oh.
MJ's going. MJ's
getting the list out.
Who else have I written about?
You're not going to have him.
Tyreek Stevenson.
Go on. It is Brian Branch from Alabama.
Oh, no.
And I am absolutely blowing
no.
it apart because I am 110% convinced that this guy is a nickel corner at the NFL, and that's what we're looking at, cornerbacks. It is because so much teams play in that sub-package that a nickel is now a starting position at the NFL, and he's the best guy in this draft to play that position. I wouldn't play him as a safety at all. I'd have him as a nickel corner every single day of the week. He's one of my favourite players in the draft. He's brilliant in zone coverage. He's got good length. He's quick. He plays that nickel role well. He tracks the ball. He reads the quarterback's eyes well. He jumps routes. He's got great lateral mobility. He backpedals cleanly. He can tackle really well. He's a high character, extremely reliable player. Nickel corner all day. He's in my team, and he's a cornerback all day long for me. And you can come at me with it, whatever you like.
According to PFF, how many total true corner snaps did he take in 2022?
Don't care.
14.
Do not care. Don't care.
14.
I don't care. You can convince me all day long.
I will save my Brian Branch stats for the safety episode.
The safety episode just got about 5 or 10 minutes shorter.
I do not care. You can gamma me all day long. He is a corner all day long in my team. And I'll put money on it. I don't know how much. We'll maybe speak about it on draft night and how drunk I get. That he will play more snaps as a nickel corner than he will as a safety in his rookie year.
Yeah.
There you go. He's a nickel corner all day long.
But he's not. He's a nickel safety hybrid rather than a nickel corner hybrid.
Nah, he's playing that nickel corner, nickel role, and
he'll take more
for me.
snaps at safety than he will as an outside corner.
As an outside corner, yes.
Yeah.
But a lot of these guys will play as slot corners, and they'll take more snaps in the slot than they will as people we're calling true corners. Branch is a corner for me all day long. Stunned silence.
I mean, yeah, he's a great player, but yeah, I'll talk about him in the safety episode, or I won't have anything to. I'm dying to know who comes top of your safety class.
Yeah, this is almost. I feel like if we were a football team, we'd be going in for a disciplinary 1-match ban for that.
Fine, I'll set out the safeties episode. I don't care.
If I was an assistant referee, I'd elbow you in the face.
I'm not as gurney as Andy Robertson. I would just take it.
Right, okay, moving on back to actual corners. We've only got the 1s and 2s left, the top 2. MJ, we'll come to you. Give us your number 2, please.
Okay, so I really struggled with 1 and 2, and I have spent most of this week flipping them back and forth and trying to work out which way to go with them. In the end, I've gone.
You don't have Antonio Johnson from Texas A&M, do you?
Oh, you're giving it away. In the end, I've gone Devon Witherspoon at 2. And obviously, he's getting all of this chatter off an absolutely stellar season this year. I mean, if you look at the stats and you look at his various, PFF gradings and that, it's up there with the best seasons that anybody has had at that position. And he is definitely in that mold of an alpha cornerback. He is feisty. He is going to let you know about it. He's going to come after you if you're a receiver. He does get penalised. He's in the bracket of, I think he got half a dozen penalties, and on the basis that I think some of these guys, or most of these guys, are going to get penalised more at the pro level than they do at college level. I think that's something he'll need to watch. But his production was amazing. He's got the anticipation. He was, diagnosing routes. He was great off the line. The problem that I had was, obviously you have got the measurables. So he's 5'11 and a half, he's 180 pounds, but the arm length was 31 and a quarter. The athletic traits are not as good as the guy who I've got number 1, I think. And also it has been, it was out of nowhere. His statistics before this year did not point to Devon Witherspoon being the top cornerback. So there is a slight, and it's only slight, reservation of, was this a complete flash in the pan year, or is this the real Devon Witherspoon now? Is the guy who's coming out of college the real deal? I think he is, and I think he'll go early on day one. But there were just a couple of question marks, which meant he ended up coming in at 2 rather than 1. And I would say my 1 and 2 are, a good chunk ahead of 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, absolutely. I have him at 2 as well. And the reason for having him at 2 behind is I don't think he is as versatile as the guy at number 1. There's a couple more question marks around certain things. But a player who is intense, is urgent, and stupidly physical. I mean, I think he's twitchy enough as an athlete. There was rumours about what his testing would be like because he wasn't at the combine. His pro day was more than good enough. I think he ran low 4.4s, which is fine for him. Plays with hustle, so has enough speed to cover ground, and he just does everything with almost violent urgency. I would say he's just almost, if you're into smash mouth football, this is the most fun you're going to have watching tape. Just turn on Devon Witherspoon highlights and watch 10 minutes of them. It's the most fun you'll have watching football if that's what you're into. But I don't think you're going to want to play him much in press because of kind of the size and then the arm length as well. That I would prefer to stand him off a bit and just let him use his instincts to come down and hit hard at the line of scrimmage, or kind of use his anticipation to track with routes. That's just how I would do it. And I would think he needs to take better angles into contact sometimes. But moving skills are lightning quick. Violent, aggressive. I don't know how many other kind of words there are for violent and aggressive, but just plug them all in. If you've got a thesaurus beside you, then just look at them and just get that through. But he will be a leader for a team. I think he will go early. Incredible energy, relentless motor. He's so good. He can win in so many different ways. But yeah, the guy I have at 1, I just prefer more. But yeah, there's a lot to like with Devon Witherspoon.
Surprise, surprise! I love Devon Witherspoon, and he's number 1 for me. You guys have covered most of it. And if you want to watch really fun tape, watch him play against Michigan. The running back, number 23, I think it was Stokes, is never going to want to see Devon Witherspoon again. He absolutely obliterated him on a few plays. He's really good at defending the run. He's ultra aggressive. He's quick. He can sometimes be a bit over aggressive at times. He likes to disrupt receivers' hands at the catch point, although he's kind of improved a little bit on his ball skills. He's a very confident guy as well. He's the king of housery. And for someone whose favourite centre-back partnership ever, Sergio Ramos and Pepe, I love that. He reacts extremely well. Some teams are just going to absolutely love Devon Witherspoon. He's just fun to watch, and I hope he's as good in the NFL. And you'll see him on highlight reels every week, knocking people's helmets off and just smashing into people. He's great fun to watch. I think for me, he's my number 1, but there's not much in it between him and you guys, number 1.
Which means we're down to 1, probably. Unless Stu's got some more sort of left field eyes. But yeah, we're not putting anything past him. And give us you can give us your number 1, please.
Yeah, so number 1 is Christian Gonzalez from Oregon, and he is just an unbelievable corner. Was a freaks this guy in the summer, and he's just such a freaky athlete, which underpins everything. Long, he's twitchy, outstanding size and length. Athletically, I would just use the word gifted. He can do. He's just blessed physically to be able to do everything. I think he's more versatile than Devon Witherspoon. I think you could play him on the inside if you wanted to, but I would use him just truly as an outside guy. Whereas Witherspoon, I wouldn't feel as comfortable doing what you would do with Christian Gonzalez with Witherspoon, because they're just two totally different types of corners who are two totally different styles, I would say. Where Devon Witherspoon just goes after it, there's almost more of a polish and maybe a smoothness to Christian Gonzalez, where he's not as rough and ready Devon Witherspoon. And it's just that there's the styles of teams and the styles of players that they are and they'll go to. But as an off-man corner, he has incredibly good instincts. He's got so much bend in his hips. Weaknesses, yeah, you could improve his route recognition at times, and he could keep tighter. But you're nitpicking at some point. So he's going to be a top 10 player on the board. He was at Colorado before this season, transfers to Oregon, and just has an unbelievable season. That you say rarely targeted because of how good he was, and you just think that if you can get him into a team, I think all day long top 10 player, and I think he'll go in the top 10 in the draft as well.
Yeah, if I was wearing one, I'd tip my hat to Owen because he was on him in the summertime. He's been a big Christian Gonzalez guy for a long time, and I think he's just a real Rolls Royce of a corner. He just makes things look easy. He's just very smooth. It almost looks like he's not. He is. He obviously is trying very hard, but he just makes things look easy. You see these rare kind of athletes and rare kind of players, and that's not to say he's going to be the most special guy in the world. We just don't know. But there's players who just make things look easy, and there's a real skill and art to that. And he's one of these kind of guys. He's got everything that you would want in a corner. He's long. He's fast. He understands the game. The only thing I would think, if you just a little bit more aggressive at times, he could be. But again, some of these players, he sometimes is just too good to be aggressive. He just gets there in time and does what he should do. His ball skills have really improved as well. You see these kind of numbers of that has really come on this year as well, which was a knock on him maybe in the summertime. Not the same questions. He had 4 interceptions, I think, this year, and 6 or 7 pass breakup. So his ball skills are definitely there. And he's really worked hard on that as well. He's got a good amount of college football behind him. He's had 30 games over a few years now. So, very good prospect. Teams are going to love Christian Gonzalez.
Have you been reading my notes somehow? Because I've got the words Rolls Royce written down here next to Christian Gonzalez. And that was my kind of comparison was, I don't know, Devon Witherspoon would be more like a Ford Mustang, kind of like, really revving that engine and coming downhill at you. Christian Gonzalez, it is effortless, absolutely effortless. Can do everything, as you said, line him up wherever. Got the requisite frame, size, athleticism, very good technique. He doesn't tend to miss tackles. He's got excellent production coming out of the college game. And absolutely the only knock, and maybe this knock was when I was comparing him with Witherspoon, was that he's not as alpha. He's not on the attack. He's not as urgent as Witherspoon, but then you don't have to be when you're that good. And it just shows you can have 2 very different players and have them quite close to each other, but miles ahead of the rest. And it will be interesting on draft night to see who goes first, Witherspoon or Gonzalez, and it will be depending on what, as we keep coming back to, depending on what that team needs, what have they already got in their cornerback room. But both of them, they won't be sat down for long on night 1.
There we go. Good stuff. Great. Quickly, remind us of your top 5s, please, guys. Stu, I'll let you go first, since you don't care about the rules anyway. You probably just say it. So.
Yeah, so number 5, I had Joey Porter Jr. Number 4 was Deonte Banks. Number 3, Brian Branch. Number 2 was Christian Gonzalez. And number 1 was Devon Witherspoon.
Thank you very much. Owen, you please.
Yeah, I had Deonte Banks at 5, Keely Ringo at 4, Joey Porter at 3, Devon Witherspoon at 2, and Christian Gonzalez at number 1.
And MJ, go finish off.
And for me, number 5, DJ Turner. Number 4, Deonte Banks. Number 3, Joey Porter Jr. Number 2, Devon Witherspoon. And number 1, Christian Gonzalez.
Fantastic. Yes, there's I forgot 7. I could just about count 7 different corners. Well, 6 in a safety that we talked about there. But you said, there's 10 in your top 50. Give us a couple of names that you like that almost made the list.
Yeah, so the other ones that I would have in my top 10 anyway, Julius Brents was the guy that I really, really like. I had him in the top fives until earlier today, and I ended up moving Deonte Banks ahead of him. Just I got the fears, really. But yeah, I really, really
Don't
like.
get the fears. Do what you want.
I really like Julius Brents. I think he's much better than anyone's given him credit for. I really like him. Cam Smith is a guy that we haven't mentioned, but is getting a lot of love. And then rounding it out would be Emmanuel Forbes. And I think he's a guy actually we need to have a conversation about because the tape's so good, but the size is just so difficult to work with. And
the thing is, though, some of that tape is so lucky. Like some of those picks, I know you've got to be in the right place at the right time, but the receiver drops it. It
Right.
bounces off his knee into the air, straight into Forbes' hands, and he's off. I mean, I know he's got wonderful production, but some of it is okay. It's right place at the right time, which is a skill. But if the ball bounces the other way, he hasn't got half of this production. But the 166, and I only wanted to chip in here because I'm now getting really concerned. He keeps getting mocked to the Giants at 25, and I'm just like, oh please no. That would be the end of my draft night.
But
if
he's
he went
apparently
25
put
to the
on
Giants.
10 pounds. He's already weighing 175 apparently, and by the time he gets to camp, he's planning on weighing 184 apparently. But I don't know how you can know that precisely that you plan on weighing that. I'm not sure it quite works that way. That's life, pal. Like,
Has he explained why it was 166 at the combine then?
I've not seen anything, but it's extremely, extremely strange. But in terms of like instincts and playmaking ability, then I think he's up there. In terms of like pure coverage, like anticipation and awareness, I thought he was one of the top guys just in that category. And I think if he say he did weigh, let's say 190, then I think he would be up on boards a lot higher than he's currently. I think he would go round one if that was the case.
I think the difficulty is he's just built like a matchstick, isn't he? You know, it's. I mean, my worry for someone like him is if he is playing at that weight and you have to come and tackle a running back and he's trying to tackle someone like Derrick Henry. You know, it's just not going to work. It's just going to be a complete and utter mismatch. But as a player in a vacuum, if you just watch Emmanuel Forbes play,
Yeah,
he's a very good corner. It's just when at that next level at the NFL, when all the guys are the biggest, fastest, strongest guys on that there is, you know, there's a lot of guys he's going to play against in college who are not going to be NFL players for whatever reason. Everyone is the biggest and the strongest and the fastest at that level, and I just worry that, you know, at that size, is he going to get injured? And but if you're going on sheer tape, good player.
Someone's going to take a flyer on him. They just are.
It's this thing, isn't it? Of you can carry 180 pounds in different ways. You know, he could be 180 and still look stick thin, couldn't he? I mean, it just goes back to what we don't know, which is all of this due diligence that teams are doing around players, and you know, having these top 30 visits. Things like this will be discussed. You know, there'll be discussions around. Okay, well, what is your playing weight? You know, are you varying a lot? Why was it 166 at the combine? All these things that we don't get to hear firsthand what's going on, and that it will be a flag for some teams, and some teams will look at him and go, we can't take a flyer on that. Other teams will be happy, and again, it comes back to what you've already got and how desperate is your need. On face value at the moment, I think he's a bit rich at 25, 26, that kind of position. But we'll see.
Funny though, won't it?
Not for me. I'll be turning off after that. That's what happened.
Just another player I wanted to mention as well, who's kind of had a lot of chat about him over the year and has kind of fallen away, but is Clark Phillips as well, from Utah. I think he's a really feisty, aggressive player who, again, earlier on in the mock draft cycle, you'll see him drafted a lot higher than he is now. There's a lot of guys kind of overtaking him as well. But yeah, I don't think teams will forget about him, though. I think he's still going to be on the radar for teams in that kind of day two range. I think he's a feisty player who will serve a role in a team, probably playing in that slot kind of position.
Yeah, see, we've just gone on about 10 there, but then you just keep going down the list. Like, there's another 5 guys there that someone's going to fall. There's going to be some really good corners go early day 3. I see a lot of movement, I think, early on day 3 of teams trying to get up to get who's left. You always see a clamoring, don't you, early on draft night. So I think going into day 3, if there's a couple of these guys there, then you could see a couple of trade ups for them, because just going down, like Jacorian Bennett is a guy I really like, but he's number 17 on my list. Riley Moss. I mean, these are all guys that could go, potentially on day 3 who are going to be starters.
Yeah.
Good stuff and a good class. And as always, you want to read some more of some of them players and loads of other players, do check out the website at 99yards.com. Plenty of scouting reports on there. But yeah, that's the corners in the bag. Regular listeners will know we've now almost finished the defense. We'll have safety up next. But yeah, as I said, get on the website, check out the other podcasts. There's plenty of stuff on there. Twitter as well at 99yards. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you later.